Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host. And today I'm here with Michelle Maidenberg. She is a doctor, PhD, MPH, LCSW-R, and maintains a private practice in Harrison, New York. She's also the co-founder and clinical director of Thru My Eyes, which is a nonprofit 501c organization that offers free clinically guided videotaping to chronically medically ill individuals who want to leave video legacies for their children and loved ones. I think that that's amazing and very, very needed. Michelle is adjunct faculty at New York University, NYU, teaching a graduate course in mindfulness practice. She's a board of directors member at the Boys and Girls in Mount Vernon and is a member of the American Red Cross Crisis Team. She serves on the board of directors of the Westchester Trauma Network in Westchester, New York. She's the author of the book Free Your Child from Overeating, 53 Mind-Body Strategies for Lifelong Health, and a new book, Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self, and Live the Life You Want, which is available almost everywhere, right? Thrift Books, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, Amazon. And you can also listen to Michelle's TED Talk, Circumventing Emotional Avoidance. She is also a blogger for Psychology Today and publishes a new guided meditation every Thursday on her YouTube channel. She is dedicated and invested in health and mental and health advocacy. So she's won lots of awards. She's lots of different places. I want you to meet Michelle.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So, well, you're not doing all of those things. What do you enjoy doing?
I just like life. I just enjoy life. What does that mean? Nature, sunshine, people, my family, people who I love and feel connected to, my dogs. I believe really living every moment to the fullest because we never, ever know what's going to happen from moment to moment. And unfortunately, in my practice, I see that way too often. Things that just come up that are just so unexpected in life. I mean, look at the world we live in today, even. Need I say more?
No, actually, one of my best friends, her brother-in-law, and I'm not going to go into the details because it's pretty tragic, but it was a road rage accident where he pulls over and the guy hits him and he ends up dying. It's very, very sad. I mean, you didn't get up in the morning, and the guy that ended up killing him, he didn't get up in the morning thinking that that was going to happen with his 8 and 10-year-old child in the back seat. And so I think that to me, the older I get, the more I realize that life is very, very fragile, and you have to live life to the fullest. And that's what I love about your message, because you're about mindset and you're about getting out there. And I think a lot of people, they do tend to use excuses instead of just going after what they really, really want. And so I want to talk about that because you go into emotional avoidance is the topic. And I feel like, I will be honest with you, the last couple of years, like I was that go-getter, which nothing ever held me back. But what I want to accomplish right now and the mission I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, I'm having a lot of emotional avoidance on. And so how does it show up in our thinking and our decision-making and our relationships? And how do we overcome it?
Yeah, I always like to use examples because they're very poignant and they kind of direct us to what I'm talking about. But I just this morning, a couple of hours ago, literally, I was having an interaction with a friend and I asked them a question. And instead of responding to the question, it triggered them for whatever reason because of something that they're going through and something that they're experiencing. And they responded to me, but it was such a catch-22 for me. Because if I would have been like compassionate and I would have gone in that route, it would have been like, they would have felt like the victim, or they would have felt like I feel sorry for them, or whatever the case is. And then if I would have just been very straightforward and direct, then I'm just compassionate. And I sat there and I'm like, I'm being tested. And again, this is all subconscious, by the way. This is totally subconscious.
And I laugh at them there all the time. So keep going.
Yeah, they had no awareness that they were like kind of putting me in this position, right? But I really sat there and I was silent because I had to think about, before I respond to this, I really have to think about how to respond. So what ended up happening, I decided to take the route of being very direct and kind of vanilla. And then they had a reaction, of course, because I knew they would. I knew they would have a reaction no matter what I did.
Yeah.
So I was, like I said, I was in a catch-22, but I felt like I was better equipped to handle it that way, and then to kind of, talk about it with them. Anyway, fast forward, I told them, I said that really put me in a position and I really didn't know where to go with that. And you have to understand, if I go this way, this is what I'm up against. If I go this way, this is what I'm up against. But more importantly, why do you feel potentially that you have to keep testing the relationship? What is that about for you? Is there something that I'm doing? Is there something that I'm putting out there that's causing you to maybe feel insecure about it? Or maybe, I don't know, like I'm willing to take responsibility for my part in it.
Right.
Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is that type of conversation, right, it eventually led to a deeper place for both of us in our relationship. Because they were able to take responsibility. I was able to take responsibility, and we move forward in a greater understanding about how we want to move forward in our relationship and what our true authentic feelings are, despite that they're difficult and challenging, right? Because it's not always like rainbows and sunshine. It just isn't, unfortunately. Feelings are feelings and they ebb and flow. And sometimes they're joyful and happy and sometimes they're disappointed and frustrated and angry and sad and all those other feelings. So unless we're authentic and we're really with our feelings in every situation, we're not going to move forward. And one of the issues also that I brought up is, which constantly happens, I think, I see this a lot with health related issues where people want something so badly, but they don't follow through, or they follow through for a short period of time and then they have trouble sustaining the habit, the practice, the experience, whatever it is. And everything that I'm talking about right now is about stuckness.
It's true.
Okay. And what always gets in the way of it is our emotional avoidance. Always. So if we really want to thrive in life, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's in parenting, career, relationships, from A to Z, we have to be able to confront and be real and authentic about our emotions.
I love that you said that because my husband's out of town right now. And so I have 6 kids, and we were talking about 3 out of the 6 this morning. And so I called him and I dropped my girls off for an activity. And so I'm sitting in the car and we're just having this conversation. It was a great conversation. And it's like, what do we do? Being the parent of adult children, it's not fun. Like I have to say that to me is the hardest age because they have their own freedom and they think for themselves and they don't always agree with what you raise them to. I love that you use that example with your friend because that's where I'm at with the kids. It's like you see them going down this road.
Yeah.
You so badly want to say, and it's not anything bad that they're doing. It's just like, okay, you're at this age in your life. You need to not be acting like this. But you're going to think, oh, how dare you? My feelings are hurt. But at the same time, it's going to like stifle them if they don't learn these skills.
Well, it's so funny that you're saying that. I have 4 kids, just so you know.
Yep.
Again, in today's day and age, 4 kids, 6 kids, is a lot of kids, right?
Especially in New York, right?
Yeah, it's unusual. So I have from 24 to 15. My youngest is 15. I have 3 boys and a girl. And it's so interesting because yesterday, it's my son's birthday. He's in California at college, and then he's doing an internship in California. I live in New York. And so it's his birthday in July. So I sent him all of like a goodie bag with like all these like kind of loving sentiments, a big like blanket with things for son, all these like cute little things. So he says, Mom, I got all the stuff you sent. It was a surprise. I got all the stuff you sent me, call me. So I'm calling him on my way home from work, and I'm expecting he's going to be gaga over what I sent him. Because like literally, I was so excited from the depths of my heart to send all this to him. You know what he says to me? He's like, I really appreciate it, but he's like, it's a bit much. And like, that I'm going to be away for my internship, and now I have to schlep more things with me, like to my apartment for my internship. And I sat there and I'm like, underneath my breath, I'm like, I was like, I wish my mother sent me these things. Like, I wish, and I was so hurt, but I'm laughing now because what you're saying, like, and I was laughing to myself, but I felt my pain. I felt literally ugh. you
Yeah.
know? I was like, it was such good intentions. And like, he's telling me what?
Okay. So while you're telling me the story, and I'm like, because I'm this visual person, right? So I'm thinking, okay, wait, his birthday's in July and it's like just barely June 15th. The fact that you as a mother sent all that stuff way ahead of time so that he can get it, I'm thinking, wow, what a good mom. Like you are
I know.
so sweet.
I
Because
know.
for me to put something in the mail, I don't know what it is. I write so many thank you cards and then to actually mail them, people are lucky if they get it in the mail because I don't know between the front door to the mailbox there's a block there. And so the fact that you mailed off this gorgeous package that you put a ton of time together and it was all sentimental and way ahead of schedule, kudos to you, right? Like,
No.
like this.
Well, but this is where the work comes in.
Right,
So this is a perfect example, actually. I mean, I didn't kind of conceptualize it until I'm speaking to you, but I'm all about values.
right.
And it's not about the response or the interaction. It's about you. It's
Mm-hmm.
about your intentionality. It's about, again, the effort you put into it. And it's about whether you're leaning in or out of your values.
That's right.
So when I got off the phone with him,
Mm-hmm.
this is the process. This is the
Right,
process. Right?
right.
I could have, and in the past, right before I did all my work, I probably would have gone to this place where I would have felt very wounded. I would have.
Right,
I literally would, and I would have sat with it because I'm such an empath and I'm
right.
very emotionally sensitive. I would have sat with it. Literally, I would have sat with it. Instead, I said to myself, gosh, I'm so proud of myself that I made the effort, that I put it out there, that, I went and I did this, like you said, in advance to make sure that he got it and that, et cetera, et cetera. It's not about his response to me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's about what I put into it to convey my love. And that I'm proud of.
Yep. And I think years down the road, probably when they have their own kids, they'll be like, oh,
Yes.
wow, mom, that was really nice of you. I didn't realize how much effort that takes. And
Yeah.
it's going to be years. And then you're just going to sit there and go, mm-hmm, yep, glad you finally realized, right? No. But I like that you did that because for me, the book that I wrote recently, very, very healing because what I realized is, um, I can only take responsibility for my actions and my feelings. And so, like, if my kids, my husband kept saying they're walking all over you, sure, they're walking all over you, they don't appreciate. And I agree with that, but I love them. And as long as I'm not enabling them to have bad habits, that they can still be a functioning adult, I will love them and do what I need to and accept their reactions as their reactions. And that's their choice. Right. And so, it's come a long way. I think I grew up in a family where guilt, you did things
Yeah.
because you were guilted and not necessarily by my parents. It was just a culture that I grew up in. And so I think for me now realizing I don't need to report to anybody. I don't need to feel like that. And so I want my kids to also feel like they can be honest and not lie. But I don't know. I don't enjoy the adulthood.
Yeah, but which is so important because, when I walked away from the interaction I just spoke about with my son, that is actually what I thought to myself. I said, isn't that wonderful that he could be authentic with me
Right. Mm-hmm.
and he could put his feelings out there
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and not be driven by guilt or shame or
Right.
like, oh gosh, my mom sent me all these things. What's wrong with me that I don't appreciate it as much as I should, right? No, he actually put it out there. And then it gave me the opportunity too to kind of take a step back and say, you know what? Maybe I sent too many things. Ugh. Like
Right.
maybe it was a little bit overwhelming, actually. Like maybe if I just sent the blanket, because I knew he would love it. It's like a snuggly blanket, like, and one other thing, that probably would have been enough.
Right.
And it would have conveyed the same thing as sending him like six things.
Mhm.
So, and that wasn't a bad lesson for me to learn too.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't need to smother him with stuff. I could just like convey the message
Right.
in a way that actually he could hear it without smothering him.
Yeah. And that does say a lot for the relationship, because he does feel like he can express himself honestly. And the fact that you did go, how dare you? And I spent all this time.
That's right. That's right. And again, if I came from a wounded place, I would have done that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I came from an appreciative, like place of gratitude, and that allowed me to just kind of listen to him, attune to him, and that was it. And it was cute because the way he responded after, because I think he sensed it,
Mhm.
which I was also so proud to see that he had a level of consciousness that he
Mhm.
said, "Oh, no, no, mom, the blanket I'm going to use so much. I love it. And I'm going to put the other stuff on my desk, you
That-
know?"
That's cool. That's good. You guys have a good relationship. It's funny because mine are 24 to 9. So
Oh, so we have similar
yeah,
ages.
we do.
Yeah.
We do. So definitely. Okay, so you talked about if I would have come from a place of being wounded. And so are the past behavior and experiences that we have oftentimes negative. I call them trauma or icebergs because my book is called Flipping the Iceberg. So I call it an iceberg because I think sometimes we don't realize it's
Mhm.
sitting in the water, just waiting to tear into that relationship, right? And so, how do we get past those icebergs so that we can create a better life?
Yeah. First of all, I love that, by the way,
Hmm.
because it's almost like it's dormant,
Hmm.
right? It's dormant. And then when it gets poked at, it's
Yes.
like poking the bear, so to speak, right? And then poof, right? So that's when we have activation, reactivity, spilling over, and all the stuff we don't want, of course. And that detrimentally and negatively impacts the relationship because you're not speaking from person to person.
Hmm.
It's literally you're speaking from five different people, right? Your wounded self at 5, your wounded self at 10, your wounded self at
Yes.
15,
Yes.
and they're responding and speaking from their wounded place at 12, wounded place at whatever, right? So you have like 10 people in the room, literally,
Yeah.
if you imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no communication to be had when all that's going on. It's too chaotic, it's too toxic, right?
Right.
So I think if we could weed that out, really, and that's what we want to, when we're triggered, we want to say to ourselves, like, what is going on right now? Who is this? Who
Hmm.
is this?
Yeah.
Because this is not related to what's happening right now here in the moment, in the present moment. This is related to something in the past, right? It could also be a projection. So I
Right.
see this a lot. It could also be a projection. So something that we see in somebody else that reminds us of the negative parts that we see in ourselves that we want to try to avoid, disregard, cast off. That happens too. There's all different reasons why we're triggered. So the most important thing is to be in tune with yourself, right? Because when you get triggered, there's a lot of things that happen. You have a physiological response,
Mhm.
in your body,
Yep.
whether it could be, people react differently in terms of their nervous system.
Hmm.
You have certain thoughts that go through your mind psychologically, right? And then you have, like we said, this activation that happens, which results in prompting behaviors.
Hmm.
So if you're very in tune with all of that, and if you practice really being like a private investigator and investigating yourself,
Right. Hmm.
you could understand better how you react to things so that when you're feeling that activation, right, and you feel, for me, I feel it right here. It like boom, it goes right to my heart. I feel like my heart rate speeding
Hmm.
up. I feel like kind of heat in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it right away. And I feel rageful. Like there's this like rage that kind of forceful, very forceful. And there is a little bit of a sadistic side that comes out. Like I'm so aware of it. Because I know when I was a kid, I couldn't express myself because A, I wasn't sophisticated to know how I was feeling, number one. And number two, nobody would listen. So what's the point, right?
Right.
So I repressed a lot. I kept on repressing, repressing. So when I get that surge of rage, it's me wanting to, like, again, not be that child and holding it inside, which ends up being very, very hurtful and painful, right?
Hmm.
So if you're aware of that, you could be better in your relationship. So like I used that example before, I I felt that going on when I had this interaction with that person. And I
Hmm.
said, I had to stop, and I didn't respond to them right away. And I even said to them, "Did you notice I didn't respond to you right away?" And they said, "Yes," which again, they took it as if, I don't know, a little passive aggressive. And I said, "No, I didn't respond because I really wanted to be thoughtful. And I recognized that I was really being activated in that moment. And I didn't want to come from that place because that wouldn't be fair to you and it wouldn't be fair to me. It wouldn't be authentic."
Hmm.
So I took that time for the sake of our relationship and for myself because I care about you. And I care about a relationship to be authentic. That was important to me. Oh my gosh, that's a gift. When if somebody said that to me, oh, I would gush. that
Mm-hmm.
they told me that they took, that's a gift, right? They took the time to think about it because they cared about me. Wow.
And the fact that you um recognize that. And what I love is the words are so powerful, and how we choose to use them can be either uplifting, like you used it, or destructive. And when you talk about these triggers, how, because I have a loved one that, oh, if someone, and they don't ever even say the words, but this person, like, it's a trigger, and they're like, "Are you calling me a liar?" And, and they're like, "Whoa, nobody even used that word. No one said anything." "Yes, you did." And wow, where did this one come from? And I have tried for years to figure this out for this person, and I cannot. And it continues. And in my opinion, they explode unnecessarily. And they like word vomit over people that should never deserve that word vomit. And so how do
Yes.
you work? Because I don't want to say work with that person, but they don't see it, and I don't think that they are willing to see it, but
Yeah.
yet it's destroying other people. So what is your advice to that?
Yeah. So that's called being on a different vibration and
Okay.
frequency.
Okay.
Yeah. If you see it that way, then you'll be more compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens when we're confronted with people who are cut off, wounded, explosive, reactive, whatever you want to call it, however you see it, we end up really getting kind of caught up in it, and then we're not our best self.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's part of the issue. It's not, the issue is not them, right? Like we get triggered, no one triggers us.
Right.
You can't blame somebody for being
Mm-hmm.
who they are
I agree.
because that's just the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't usually come from a malicious place. It comes from a stuck place.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of the problem. Our brain is wired to protect us. So it leads us to believe that somebody's coming at us. That's not really what's going on. They're coming at themselves,
Right. Yeah.
coming at themselves. So I always say, like, that like there's some, I had a patient I was working with yesterday who one of their friends constantly puts themselves in a position where people get angry at them and frustrated and whatever. And I said to her, I said, do you really think that she intentionally does that? Would
Right.
a person intentionally put themselves in positions where people are always angry at them and frustrated with them and ghost them? Do you think that is purposeful? And she stopped and she smiled. And she said, why would somebody do that? I said, that's exactly right. So what you're seeing is something very subconscious and coming from a very wounded place.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just happening with you, it's happening all over the place with her and her relationships,
Yep.
right? So when you see that show up, could you change your mindset and say something a little bit different? Could you say, wow, I wonder what's going on for her to make her so cut off or to make her so insensitive or whatever, you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
instead of saying, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? You know, that's what we do.
Mhm.
And then the person becomes defensive and then we become defensive and, we're at it. You could
Mhm.
say, what's going on for you? Like, I'm worried about you, or I'm
Yep.
curious about your reaction to that.
Mhm.
Very different. And
Right.
you still may not get what you're looking for. However, you are acting in line with your values. You will feel a lot better about yourself
Mhm.
if you come to the relationship asking those like compassionate questions than you being reactive to a reaction, because
Mhm.
you'll sit with that and then you'll feel poorly about yourself. And
Right.
that's part of the problem.
And I think that that's something where another question I want to ask is, because if you have somebody that comes at you and they attack, 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 and you're like, whoa, unfounded. I did for a long time, for years, and I I used to have an eating disorder where I was much more skinnier, right? And I flipped it where I would go to the pantry and just start eating because something's in my mouth I cannot react. And so I finally woke up one day and went, "Oh, they're not going to have any more control over me like that anymore. I'm okay with it." But how do we cultivate self-acceptance and self-compassion to increase our well-being despite maybe somebody who has a toxic or is toxic? How do we get back
So
ourselves?
nobody's toxic.
Okay.
Nobody's toxic. I mean, I used that word before relative to patterns of behavior, but a person is not toxic.
Right.
A
Right.
pattern of
Yes.
a pattern of behavior is toxic. Yes, it can be toxic to the relationship, but a person is never
I
toxic.
agree. Thank you for
Yeah,
correcting me. That's true.
yeah, and I don't mean to, kind of,
No, I'm glad that you corrected that because I agree with you. That's not,
yeah, I know you
nobody
do.
wakes up in the morning saying, I'm going to be a toxic person today. They don't think that. So you think,
Oh, no, everything is so subconscious. Like, I can't say that enough.
mhm,
Like, and that's why we don't have compassion for other people. We lose our compassion towards others because we're just looking at them at face value. I'm not saying that people's behaviors are always, altruistic and helpful and beneficial. And sometimes people are psychopaths, sociopaths. And I mean, we do
right,
have people
right.
who are actually evil. Yes,
Mhm.
there are people out there, but they got evil for a reason.
Yes,
People are not born evil.
right.
Okay.
Oh, they're
Like,
cute. They're so cute.
yeah, they're born as children.
Mhm.
Okay.
Innocent.
So innocent, open-minded,
Mhm.
playful,
Yeah.
inquisitive.
Mhm.
We create that. I mean, let's be clear about that.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important to recognize that. Like, there's so many wounded people out there. And listen, I have wounded parts. I
Mhm.
own that. When I react, sometimes I react from my wounded part. And actually, that friend who I was just talking about, after we had that conversation over that little thing, I said to them, I said, I want you to know, I actually had a reaction to you last night and I got triggered. I have to fess up. And they said, what? And I told them what happened. And they're like, wow, like, that's amazing that you kind of came to that. I'm like, yeah, well, because, my training and everything. I said, probably the average person wouldn't. I said, but you know what? I want to learn and grow. And it's not okay for me to act that way. It's not okay for me to be triggered and to like subconsciously just like kind of let loose. And I'm going to take responsibility for that. And I have to be a little bit more aware. So I fess up. Like, I'm aware of it when I put my head down to rest last night. It came to me, like, it all of a sudden hit me like, whoa. Because I was a little bit tough on them. I was like kind of jabbing at them a little bit, and I felt it. I was like, what is that? I was like curious. I'm like, that's a little salty, spicy side that's coming out.
So getting back to the question, then we talk about self-acceptance and self-compassion. So
Yes.
knowing that, recognizing you had the salty side of you,
Yeah.
how do you work through that? And I think you answered it, but expand.
So it's again being aware of it, how it's affecting me in my mind, my body, my thoughts, my reactions, my impulses, and being grounded in my values. It always goes back to our core values and understanding what those are intrinsically. I have a whole chapter in my book, Ace Your Life,
I was just
about
mhm.
about how to connect with your values. That is the most important part of my work, I have to tell you. It's changed my life. Literally, it's changed my life. And I owe all my life and work to that, to values. Here's the book, by the way. But yeah, it's being grounded in that and knowing, because values are a guide to action. You
Right.
need to know fundamentally what they are so you know how to behave. And they guide you in the course of every realm of your life, literally.
I love that. And I think that you just answered my question that I've been trying to figure out. Because with your children, I think my biggest frustration is, what are your values? Because you're like teetering on this fence. And again, I'm not saying my kids are horrible. Like, I think they're wonderful kids. So please, anyone listening, don't think that at all. But there's certain things that for me, I was able to, and I think it's much easier growing up, I guess, back then, but you weren't inundated with so much information. And so it was easy to be a little sheltered, and it's not
Yeah.
anymore because social media. And so, what are your values? Because then, if you can go back to your core values, every decision you make is based upon those values. So,
Always, always,
that's beautiful.
always about that.
Well, I could talk to you all day, but
Yeah.
we both have to be at different places. So, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they find you?
The best place is really on my website, which is my full name, Michelle with two L's, Maidenberg, Maidenberg.com. I write a lot of articles on all different topics. I have, like I said, a YouTube channel, which I also publish guided meditations, and I'm always happy to interact with anybody who's interested. And I'm always happy to come back on if you have more questions.
That's fantastic. And your book is
Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self, and Live the Life You Want. I call it the ACE method, and it's predicated under acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. So in my book, I write about our thinking, because it's very important to understand the physiology of our thinking, our values, and how to really conceptualize our values. And then acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. The first chapter is the barriers, because we need to know that. And then how to integrate and cultivate it. And I give a lot of exercises, I give a lot of skills, and each chapter ends with a guided meditation, a QR code with a guided meditation.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It was so nice meeting you.
Yes, you as well. All right, Unbreakable Mompreneurs, if you are having a hard time, or you're feeling like you've been triggered, or you feel like maybe there's something that you need to work on, I highly recommend, because I'm going to go get this book, Ace Your Life, because it's not just us. It's maybe the customers that come in that have a bad day, realizing instead of reacting to them, realizing that they might just be having a bad day, and you don't need to take that on yourself. So, Michelle, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Go make it a great day, moms. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.